Hey, everybody, welcome to Buffalo Plus and the Buffalo Plus YouTube page. We're happy you're here with us. Dan Fates is up in Orchard Park. Jenna Cottrell with us. Dan, it's just another week, right? That's what they're saying, playing the Patriots?
Yeah, it's another Wednesday, so it's raining obviously in Buffalo, which is why I'm in my car. And yeah, it's just another game. You know, you're only playing the team that has pretty much dominated you for the last 30 years. So status quo, right, Mike?
Yeah, well, Jenna, at the beginning of the year, before the season, when asked about where they were in the AFC East, what did Bean say? What did McDermott say about what they need to do this season?
They said, frankly, that they need to beat New England. They need to be consistently able to beat them. And let's be real, that's something that we haven't seen in so long. And Dan, I mean, it's actually comical when you go back and look at the stats.
Yeah. No, it's not good. I mean, and the fact that they've beat them 4 times since 2002, and they play each other twice a year. This isn't like a rare thing.
But Dan, obviously, like Sean McDermott's going to come out this week and be like, we got to win this game. This means our season. We're going to, right?
Yeah, remember last week when Sean McDermott was real in the camera like this? Yeah, he was back to, it's just another game. It's the most important game because it's the next game. And it's like, all right, Sean, we get it. But like I said, this game is massive. Not even just in terms of the possibility of the changing of the guard and the Bills starting something that they haven't done in 20 years, but it's also the fact of the Bills would have a virtual stranglehold on this division with a win here. They would then move to 4-0 in the division. The worst they could do would be 4-2. Jenna, what
No, I'm just thinking of Mike McCarthy's research of saying if you win 4 division
four games.
Mr. Analytics himself, Mike McCarthy, yeah.
It's just one of those things where, and we talked about it before. We talked about it, heading into on Sunday when we kind of recapped the last game, was the fact that, well, this regime has for the longest time been like, oh, all of those dominating stats, that wasn't us. We haven't been here. These are the same guys that have been here now for 3 years. They're 0-6. This is a big game, and they will always get these questions about what is it like to go up against Patriots until they do it. It's like we asked everybody about the drought. Whether or not they were here or not, you got asked about the drought. Right. Now they constantly are getting asked about, can you finally beat New England?
Jenna, but what I was thinking is there's the big picture. We've got to beat New England. That's our goal. And then there's the Wednesday before the game on Sunday. And now you are talking about a specific game against a specific team. So should we be surprised that they're going into the one game at a time cliche thing?
No, I mean, not. Like, I feel like they do this every week anyways. Like Sean McDermott, like we've always said, is so about messaging and respecting his opponent. And it is kind of comical considering this game is so huge in the division and it's against the juggernaut of the division that is consistently beat up on their younger brother. But Dan, that's why I'm curious, like what at practice today, like seeing John Brown out there, like was it full of energy?
No, it was pretty subdued. Now look at it again. It's a day that ends in a Y, so it's been pretty crappy weather. Like nothing else is new. But John Brown, coach said he was good to go. So I kind of thought that, okay, we may see John Brown. He is a shell of what he is. I wouldn't even put him necessarily at 50%. He was wearing a compression sleeve on his left calf and was really laboring to go through some of just the individual drills, the footwork drills, the breaking on double routes drills. He was laboring. So not a good sign, because as we've realized, we kind of talk about like Trey White's the best player on the Bills defense, but Matt Milano may be the most important. We're realizing that Stephon Diggs is probably the best Bills wide receiver, but he may not be the most important guy. And that guy is John Brown. So very interesting because he did not look healthy, not look anywhere near 100% during practice.
Yeah. All right, but let's talk about the Patriots because the Bills aren't going to say anything bad. You're going to think Cam is at MVP level and that the Patriots are the Patriots. Well, they're not. They're lost. San Francisco ran them over last week. They cannot stop the run at home. Their offense has been a mess. Now there are the reports out there that maybe they're looking to deal Stephon Gilmore. And the only reason I bring that up is they've already lost a bunch of players that opted out or for injuries. If you're in that locker room now and you're New England and you're so used to winning, but you start seeing this, you start feeling this, 3 losses in a row. Normally they don't lose 3 in a row. It hadn't happened in 18 years. But Jenna, when you've been in this spot and now you're hearing this, I mean, the whole like, we're the Patriots, we come back. I don't know if this Patriots team has it.
Well, usually it's, you know, you get a super motivated team off a loss, and then they lost back to back. Then they lost 3 in a row. They actually haven't lost 4 in a row since 2002. So this is something that this Patriots team is just all the guys on this team. Basically, this is uncharted territory. Obviously, Bill Belichick was there, but at the same point, this is going to be an interesting. What do you think, Dan?
Well, they've always doubted themselves, even when they're 8-0 and played this underdog.
Yeah, but they're
role.
not 8-0.
Right.
Right. I know exactly. But they've always had this mindset of like, oh, we're the scrappy team, even when they've had the best quarterback for 2 decades in the NFL, maybe the NFL
It's
history.
one thing when you have the talent to actually be.
Absolutely.
Whereas
well, you know what it is?
Cam Newton and their team struggling.
You're right, Janet. And you know what it is? We were all looking for those moments, right? When the Chiefs beat them up or they lost to the Ravens. Like, is this it? Is this when New England finally comes down? And now, like, I mean, it doesn't take all 22 genius to figure out this is not a very good football team right now.
But like Joe Sixpack would even understand that New England is struggling.
But they do have Belichick, right? And he normally can figure things out. But I do think part of the reason Belichick has been so good at figuring things out is he has some struggles early in the year, but he's got his guys. He's got his guys who get what he's doing, and he eventually gets that working. And then, number 12 just makes plays, and they figure it out, and then they start getting on that roll. Well, he doesn't have number 12. And Cam, and I'm not pinning this on COVID, but the guy played well. Then he tested positive, and something's happened with him. Like, he was atrocious last week. Yeah. And can he get that back? We're talking about a guy who's had a limited amount of football and hasn't gotten it back. So if you're the Bills, you better beat this team because you're a better team than the Patriots.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jenna.
No, I just was saying, like, and also, Sean McDermott knows what Cam Newton looks like when he plays very well. So I don't think he's ever going to discredit Cam because he was there for the MVP season. He saw him go play in the Super Bowl. Like, he knows the potential. Now it's been more like playing like the floor, but he knows what that ceiling is.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, Mike, because we talked about it right on Sunday with the fact that normally you don't want to get New England coming off a loss because then it was like a surefire bounce back game. They lost 2 in a row, and one of the games was because Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham were playing the Kansas City game, and then they got beat up. But like last week was embarrassing. Cam Newton even said he was embarrassed. He deserved to be benched, that he understands that his starting role is in jeopardy. That's a little nervous. That is usually the sign of a team that has a bounce back. Like, I'm just saying, like, I know that they are the more talented team. We've been saying that throughout the entire season, even the offseason. But I don't know if I'd be overly confident as a 3.5 point favorite when one of our good friends, Matt Bove, came up to me today at practice, sports director at WKBW, and goes, "Do you like the Bills minus 3.5?" And I went, "Not really, not really." Like, I don't know.
You know what? You know what it is? You're fooled by the uniforms. You're fooled by the history. Look at the roster that they're putting out on the field now. I'm telling you right now, the Bills are a better roster. What they have is Belichick and Josh McDaniel, right? Well, he's a good coordinator, but you're a lot better coordinator when you've got Brady. And their offensive line has been a mess. They cannot stop the run. And you could say, well, the Bills haven't run the ball. They aren't doing a great job against the pass either. I mean, they got picked apart, and it's 3 losses in a row. So if you're the Bills, yes, you are getting a wounded Patriots team. But I'm telling you, they look more like what we've seen out of the Bills over the last 2 decades than what you've seen out of the Patriots. Weak quarterback play, a defense that doesn't have an identity, and an offense that can't score points. I mean, they have Belichick, but even he's got to be sitting there thinking, what do I have? I used to always say, like, isn't it great for Belichick because he never had to worry about Brady. Might have an off day or whatever it is. He could focus on all the little stuff. His problems are big problems right now. I know you're going to tell me I'm wrong. I think the Bills should be able to dominate this Patriots team. I don't mean a blowout, but to prove they're the better team.
Wow.
Remember we said that about the Jeffs?
Yeah, but then the Bills went on the field and the Jets got everybody back, and the Bills had some injuries still to deal with, and New York, they got off to a decent start, and then the second half they played like the Jets. So I'm not saying that these guys are the Jets, but they're not the Bills right now. The Bills are the better team, and they've got it right in front of them, and they should win the game.
And they're not the normal Patriots.
Right.
Dan, I did have one more question about practice. John Feliciano, out there, normal.
Yeah, it looked normal. I mean, he's an entire football field length away. The offensive line works at the complete opposite end of where we are allowed to film. But he's looked good the last few weeks. It was kind of surprising that he wasn't activated off of IR last week, especially with Quinton Spain being released. So I would expect him to play. Obviously, Sean McDermott, he's been very open about how close to the vest he's keeping things when he's been asked a question. And then he goes, I'm not going to tell you whether or not he's starting or not, pretty much because I'll give my opponent an advantage.
Right.
So I respect the honesty of him being like, buzz off. I'm not going to tell you because that's dumb of me to say. But the one other thing that was interesting of note of practice, obviously there's only 2 tight ends practicing right now because of COVID. And the players today, a lot of them wore the masks to begin with. And then a lot of them were wearing the Oakley mouth visor, which was the perforated plexiglass that goes along their mouth. So I asked one of the team photographers too, and he said it's the first time he has seen them wear it. I think obviously everybody's antennas are up with the fact of Dawson Knox coming down with COVID and who was closely connected to him. So I think that was one of the other things too, is that you kind of get spooked a little bit. Your car slides in the snow that first time, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, like I got to actually pay attention again. So it was an interesting thing. It was just something to note where the team taking it very seriously.
And Dan, real quick, you didn't see the Dodgers' Justin Turner at practice today, did you?
I did not. He was too busy celebrating with his teammates holding up the trophy.
Yeah, as we see the COVID impact, or imagine that if we had a 7th game in the World Series after that exposure. But that's not what we're talking about now. We are talking about the Bills. And if you get a chance, go to Buffalo Plus. I put up an article because, well, I was around for all of them. The Unicorn, which is Bills wins against the Patriots. So only been 4 of them. Only 3 of them actually really counted in a way. Only 2 of them did Brady go the whole way. But especially the first 2 are fun to look back. There's highlights there, a couple of notes about the game. So check that out on Buffalo Plus. Plus, we're going to have plenty of content all week long on the Bills and the Patriots as we get set for Sunday's game in Orchard Park. Remember to like and subscribe on the Buffalo Plus YouTube page. For Dan Fates up in rainy Orchard Park and for Jenna Cottrell, I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for watching.